I never thought I'd be that sibling, the one who blows up the family dynamic right before a wedding. But here I am, 2 weeks after the fact, sitting in a quiet apartment, surrounded by unanswered texts and a mom who won't return my calls. I'm 28F. My sister, Claire, is 31. We've always been close in that classic older-younger sibling way. She was my role model growing up, confident, charming, driven. When she got engaged last year, I was over the moon for her. Until I found out who the groom was. His name is Matt. And I know him very, very well. Because I dated him. Yeah. Let that sink in. Claire and I had a 3-year period where we drifted a bit. I moved to another city for grad school. She was starting her career in PR and traveling a lot. During that time, I dated Matt for nearly 9 months. It wasn't just casual. He met our parents. He spent Thanksgiving with us. We even talked about moving in together. Then he ghosted me. Not a slow fade out. I mean vanished. One day we were planning a weekend trip, the next, he was gone. Blocked me on everything. Wouldn't return calls. I thought he was dead. I even filed a missing person report. Turns out, he just moved cities. No explanation. No closure. That was 4 years ago. Fast forward to last fall. Claire invites me to dinner, says she has exciting news. I thought she was getting promoted. Instead, she told me she was engaged. To Matt. I laughed. I thought it was a joke. But the way she looked at me, eyes wide and careful, like she was waiting for something to explode, I realized it wasn't. I don't remember everything I said. I know I asked her if she was serious. If she knew we had history. She nodded. Said she found out a few months into dating him. That Matt had told her everything. Everything? I asked. He regrets how it ended, she said. He said he panicked. That he wasn't ready for commitment back then. I think I just sat there, stunned. Not just because she was dating him, but because she'd been dating him for months without telling me. The next few months were messy. I tried to be civil. I told her I needed space. She tried to play peacemaker, insisting that love was complicated and that no one owns anyone. Our parents stayed out of it. Classic conflict avoidance mode. But I couldn't shake it. I couldn't shake the image of him sitting at our kitchen table, laughing with our dad, years ago. I couldn't stomach the idea of watching him slip a ring on Claire's finger, acting like the past never happened. About 2 months before the wedding, Claire asked if I would be her maid of honor. I told her no. She cried. Said she thought I was coming around. That Matt wanted to apologize in person. That she couldn't imagine her big day without me. I told her I loved her. But I wouldn't be there. It was one of the hardest conversations of my life. The fallout was slow and cold. My mom called, trying to convince me to reconsider. Said family sticks together. My dad was more neutral, but I could tell he was disappointed. Friends were split, some said I was protecting my peace, others said I was being petty. Then the wedding came and went. I didn't go. Claire hasn't spoken to me since. I saw photos online. She looked beautiful. Matt looked smug. And me? I felt numb. Like I had dodged a bullet, but lost a limb in the process. I don't know if I did the right thing. I don't know if this is something we can ever come back from. But I do know that I couldn't stand there, smiling, pretending that a man who shattered me was now part of the family. That his past with me didn't matter. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of who she married? A few days after the wedding, I got a voicemail from my dad. Just him saying, "Call me back when you can." No tone. No hint of anger or sadness. Just empty. I waited 2 days. When I finally called, he sounded tired. Not mad. Just worn out. He asked how I was. I asked how the wedding was. We circled around the real conversation like it was a cliff edge neither of us wanted to fall over. Then he said, "Claire's hurt. But she still loves you." I didn't respond. "Do you still love her?" he asked. I said yes. Without hesitation. "Then maybe it's time to reach out." The thing is, I wanted to. I missed my sister. But every time I thought about texting her, I imagined Matt reading over her shoulder. I imagined him smirking, knowing I'd broken first. And I hated that image more than I missed her. Instead, I threw myself into work. Extra hours. Volunteering. Late-night emails just to fill the silence. But it crept in anyway. At night. In the quiet. In the dreams where Claire and I were little again, making blanket forts and whispering secrets. 3 weeks after the wedding, I got an envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside was a handwritten note. It was from Claire. "I wish things were different. I wish you'd come. I wish he hadn't hurt you. But he makes me happy. And I want to believe people can change. I want you in my life, but I understand if you can't. Just know the door's open. Always." I cried for a long time after that. Not loud sobs. Just tears that kept coming, like something had cracked open. I still didn't know what to do. That weekend, I ran into one of our mutual friends, Kara, at a bookstore. She looked surprised to see me. "Claire said you might be here," she said. I blinked. "What, like, today?" "No. Just, she hoped you hadn't vanished." We talked for a while. About dumb things. Books. Work. Then Kara said something that stuck with me. "You know, Matt does seem different. Not perfect, but softer. Less guarded. Claire brings it out in him. It doesn't erase what he did. But maybe it counts for something." I didn't know how to feel about that. On one hand, I wanted to believe people could change. God knows I'd grown since that relationship. But on the other, I couldn't forget that pain. That hollow feeling of being erased. I couldn't trust that it wouldn't happen to her too. But maybe that wasn't my choice to make. A few nights later, I drafted a message to Claire. I didn't send it. But it helped to write. "I got your note. I miss you too. I don't hate you. I just haven't figured out how to be around him yet. But I want to try. Maybe not today. Maybe not tomorrow. But soon." I left it in drafts. The next day, I got another letter. Same handwriting. "Thanks for not disappearing." 2 days later, I was at a coffee shop reading when someone slid into the chair across from me. I looked up. Claire. She gave me a hesitant smile. "Hey." I froze for a second. Then I said, "Hey. Can I sit?" "You already are." She laughed. It was soft, tired. "I had to see you. I didn't want to just write letters forever." We talked. 4 hours. Not just about the wedding. About everything. Childhood memories. Inside jokes. Work. Life. For the first time in months, it felt like us. Eventually, the subject shifted to Matt. She didn't defend him. She didn't beg me to like him. She just explained how they reconnected, how open he'd been about the past. How he admitted what he did to me was cowardly, even cruel. "He offered to write you a letter too," she said. "But I thought you'd rather hear from me." She was right. We didn't solve everything that day. But it was a start. And it made me realize something I hadn't before: sometimes, love means choosing to believe someone can do better. And sometimes, it means walking away. But maybe, just maybe, it can also mean staying, with boundaries. That night, I finally hit send on the message I'd left in drafts. And for the first time in a long time, I slept without dreaming. It had been a few weeks since that day in the coffee shop. Claire and I weren't exactly back to normal, but we were trying. Texts here and there. A couple more casual meetups. We were avoiding anything deep, which honestly felt like a relief. But part of me knew it was temporary. Sooner or later, the Matt conversation would come back around. And it did. Just not how I expected. It started when Claire invited me over for dinner. Nothing dramatic, just her and Matt. A clean slate dinner, she called it. I hesitated for days before agreeing. Not because I was afraid of seeing Matt, but because I wasn't sure if I trusted myself to keep it together. But I went. He greeted me at the door like nothing had happened. Like we were old friends reconnecting. And in that moment, something in me snapped. Not in an angry, yelling way. Just quiet resentment. Because he didn't look guilty. He looked comfortable. As if he'd rewritten the narrative in his head and was now the gracious host in some rom-com redemption arc. Dinner was awkward but civil. Claire tried hard to keep things light. I tried to play along. Until Matt brought up the past. I think I owe you an apology, he said, mid-bite. For how things ended. I was in a bad place. Immature. I didn't know how to handle commitment. I looked at him. You didn't just mishandle commitment. You disappeared. You ghosted me like I didn't exist. Claire stiffened. Matt raised his hands slightly. I know. And I hate that. I was dealing with a lot back then. Family stuff, job stuff. I just couldn't see a future. So you erased me from yours. He nodded, and for a moment, I thought he might finally own it. But then he said something that rewrote the entire night. I told Claire you and I were never that serious. That it was more of a situationship. I didn't want her to feel weird. Silence. I blinked. You what? Claire's eyes widened. Matt. I didn't want to make things harder for her, he said quickly. I figured it would be better to downplay it. You know, so she didn't feel like she was stepping into some huge shadow. My heart sank. So this whole time, Claire thought we were casual? A fling? 9 months, I said. You met my parents. We talked about moving in together. You told me you loved me. He looked genuinely surprised. Like he didn't remember saying that last part. Claire looked between us, confused, like someone had pulled the rug out from under her. You never told me that, she said to Matt. You made it sound like it was just dating. A few months. Nothing serious. Matt fumbled. I didn't want to upset you. Claire turned to me. Why didn't you say anything before? I was floored. Because I thought you knew. I thought when you said he told you everything, he actually did. There was a long silence. Matt stood up to clear the dishes. Classic deflection. Claire followed me to the door when I left. She looked torn. I need to talk to him, she said. Yeah, I said. You do. I didn't hear from her for a few days after that. I tried not to let my mind spiral. But the longer the silence went on, the more I felt like the ground had shifted again. When she finally texted, it was short. Can we talk? Just us. We met at a park near her apartment. No makeup, no carefully curated outfit. Just Claire in sweats, hair in a messy bun, looking like the big sister I grew up with. He lied, she said. He didn't just ghost you. He told me you guys were a rebound. That it never got serious. He made it sound like you were more into him than he was into you. I swallowed. And you believed him. She nodded, shame flooding her face. I did. And I hate that. I think I needed to believe it. Because if I admitted it was serious, then I had to admit I was building a future with someone who deeply hurt my sister. And that made me a terrible person. You're not a terrible person. I might be a naive one. We sat on that bench for a while. Claire told me she was going to couples therapy with Matt. That she wanted him to unpack why he minimized what we had. That she didn't know where they stood anymore, but she was re-evaluating things. I didn't cheer. I didn't say I told you so. I just listened. Because despite everything, I wanted her to figure it out, whatever it was, on her own. Afterward, she hugged me tightly. Thank you for not giving up on me. And I said the truth, I never did. After the park conversation, things between Claire and me settled into something tentative but hopeful. She started checking in more. Casual messages turned into longer texts, and for the first time since her engagement, I felt like we were slowly rediscovering our rhythm. But the weight of what Matt had done and how he tried to manipulate the narrative still hovered. A week later, Claire invited me over again. This time, she said Matt wouldn't be there. Just her and dinner. No agenda. Just talking. She was quiet that night. Restless. Like something was boiling under the surface. I asked him point blank, she said after we sat down. Why he lied. Why he downplayed you. I set my fork down. And? She stared into her wineglass like it held a crystal ball. He said he felt like the truth would scare me. That I wouldn't want to be with someone who had a serious history with my sister. That if I thought it was just a fling, it wouldn't matter. I took a breath. That's not fear. That's manipulation. She nodded. I know that now. Silence again. He told me something else, she said carefully. Something I think you should know. My stomach dropped. Okay. He admitted he cheated. Not with me. With someone before you. And he almost did it again while he was with you. He said he flirted with a coworker. Nothing physical, according to him, but enough. I blinked. That piece of the puzzle clicked in like it had always been missing. I remembered the sudden increase in vague work meetings. The secret of texting. How his phone never left his hand by the end. And suddenly, the ghosting made even more sense. Maybe he ran before he had to confront himself. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because you deserve to know, she said. And because I don't know what I'm doing anymore. She looked at me, and the woman who had always been the one in control, the one who knew what she wanted and how to get it, looked utterly lost. I wanted so badly for this to be right, she said. I wanted to believe I wasn't just someone who fell for the wrong guy. Again. My heart ached for her. I could have said I told you so. I could have piled on. But I didn't. Instead, I said, you don't owe anyone a perfect story. You only owe yourself the truth. She started crying. Not loud, just quiet tears she wiped away like they embarrassed her. We sat like that for a while, holding the silence gently between us. After that night, Claire told me she was taking space. From Matt. From the relationship. She hadn't made a decision yet, but the distance helped. Our parents didn't know the full story, only that Claire was decompressing after the wedding. Mom kept trying to pull me back into family dinners, acting like everything was fine. I declined most of them. But then something happened I didn't expect. Matt texted me. Just one line, can we talk? My first instinct was to delete it. But something stopped me. Curiosity? Closure? Masochism? I don't know. We met in a public place. A park bench near a walking trail. He looked different. Tired. Maybe even scared. I'm not here to ask for forgiveness, he started. I think I lost the right to that. I stayed silent. I told Claire more lies than I told you. But the worst lie was the one I told myself. That I was a good man who just made a few mistakes. I looked at him. So why now? Because I saw what you two have. And I realized the only honest thing I've done in months was tell her to go talk to you. That surprised me. You told her to reach out to me? He nodded. Because I saw her breaking. And I knew I was the reason. I didn't want to drag you both down. We sat in silence again. There was no apology big enough. No explanation that could fix what was broken. But for the first time, I felt like he finally saw it. I stood. I hope you figure yourself out. But you don't get to rewrite the past. Not with me. Not with her. He nodded slowly. I know. That night, I called Claire. Told her about the conversation. She listened. Quietly. And then she said, I think I needed to know he could be honest. Even if it came late. What are you going to do? I don't know. But whatever I choose next, it'll be mine. Not built on someone else's version of the truth. That was the first night in months I didn't feel like a supporting character in someone else's mess. I felt like myself again. And for the first time, maybe so did she. If there's one thing I've learned through all this, it's that healing doesn't arrive with a big, dramatic moment. No tearful breakthrough. No sweeping gesture. It creeps in quietly, through long silences, half-finished sentences, and the decision to stay in the room even when it's uncomfortable. Claire and I kept talking. Not every day, but often enough. She'd send me memes again. Random thoughts. Screenshots of bad reality TV with snarky commentary. At first I flinched whenever her name popped up on my screen, expecting the heaviness to return. But over time, it didn't. Or maybe we just learned how to carry it better. Then came Thanksgiving. Our family doesn't do anything huge. Just our parents, us, and sometimes a couple family friends. When Mom invited me this year, I said yes, something I wasn't sure I'd be ready for even a few weeks earlier. I asked, casually, if Matt would be there. Mom hesitated. Then said, Claire didn't say. I almost backed out. But I didn't. Thanksgiving morning came. I drove over with a pie I'd half burned. My stomach churned the whole ride. When I got there, Claire opened the door. She looked normal. Like she had peeled off all the wedding pressure, the weight of pretending everything was okay. Hey, she said. Hey. No dramatic moment. Just a quiet acknowledgement. As I walked in, I realized Matt wasn't there. Claire must have seen my glance. He's spending the holiday with his parents. We're not together right now. Not officially broken up, but I needed time. I nodded. I get that. Dinner was awkward, like everyone was waiting for the other shoe to drop. Our mom kept asking everyone about work. Dad kept drinking wine and not saying much. Claire and I sat across from each other, exchanging knowing looks every time someone tried too hard. Eventually, the night ended. Everyone filtered out. Claire and I lingered. She walked me to my car. The cold air felt cleaner than the house. I've been seeing a therapist, she said, breaking the silence. Yeah. She said something that stuck with me. You can't heal where you were hurt, if the same people are still hurting you. I exhaled. She sounds smart. Claire looked down at her shoes. I thought love meant pushing through discomfort. That if I just believed in Matt hard enough, everything would work out. But I was twisting myself into knots trying to make his past easier for both of us. And I didn't even stop to think about what that meant for you. You don't need to apologize again, I said. You're here. That means more than any speech. She smiled. Still. I wish I'd done better. Me too. But we've got time. A few weeks later, Matt officially moved out of Claire's apartment. She didn't make a big deal out of it. Didn't text me crying or spiral like I expected. She just sent me a photo of her now bare bookshelf, followed by a gif of a dumpster fire. Freedom, the caption read. We laughed about it later. Not because it wasn't serious, but because sometimes, the only way to release something is to laugh as it burns. By Christmas, we were close again. Not identical to before, but better in some ways. More honest. More willing to have hard conversations. Matt never reached out again. I don't know where he is now. I don't need to. Sometimes the best closure isn't getting answers. It's recognizing you no longer want them. Claire and I still talk about it sometimes, how the people you trust most can sometimes break you in the quietest, most invisible ways. But we also talk about growth, and boundaries, and choosing ourselves. And every once in a while, she'll ask, half joking, half serious, "Still think I'm the villain?" And I'll say, "We were both flawed. But we showed up. That counts." Because in the end, that's what family is. Not perfection. Not blind loyalty. But the choice to return. To listen. To learn. Even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts. It was mid-January when I saw him again. Matt. I wasn't expecting it. I was out running errands, groceries, dry cleaning, the usual Saturday circuit, when I stopped into this little cafe I'd been going to for years. The kind of place where the baristas know your order, where the light always hits the wood tables just right in the morning. And there he was. Alone. Sitting by the window with a notebook and a half-drunk cup of coffee. He looked thinner. Rougher around the edges. Not in the tragic, romantic way, just faded. Like someone who hadn't been sleeping well. Like someone who didn't quite know where to go next. He looked up and saw me. We locked eyes. And I froze. He didn't wave. Didn't call out. Just gave the smallest nod. I turned and walked out. My heart was pounding as I stood on the sidewalk, trying to catch my breath. I hadn't expected to feel so much all at once. Anger, confusion, pity, none of them strong enough on their own to make sense of the moment. I didn't tell Claire right away. I told myself it wasn't important. He didn't try to talk to me. He didn't follow me. Maybe he was just passing through. But then I saw him again. A week later. Same cafe. Same table. Same notebook. This time, I stayed. I got my drink and sat 2 tables over. I didn't look at him, but I could feel him looking at me. Eventually, he stood and walked toward me. "Hey," he said. I didn't respond. "I'm not trying to insert myself again," he said quickly. I come here to write." "I didn't know you did too. I've been coming here for years." He nodded, like that was a punch to the gut he felt he deserved. "Okay," he said, and turned to walk away. But something stopped me. "Matt." He turned back. "What are you writing?" He blinked. "Honestly?" "Therapy assignments. My therapist told me to write letters I'll never send." I almost laughed. "So your therapist gives homework too?" That surprised a smile out of him. "Yeah." Brutal grader. I gestured toward the chair across from me. "You want to sit?" "Just for a few minutes." He hesitated. Then sat. The conversation that followed was nothing like what I expected. No grand apologies. No excuses. Just human. He talked about how he'd spent the last few months unlearning things. About control. About avoidance. About how deeply he needed to be liked, and how much that need had led him to lie to everyone, including himself. I didn't forgive him. But I didn't hate him either. We parted with a nod. Nothing more. That night, I called Claire. "I ran into him," I said. She was quiet for a beat. "And?" "He looked like someone who finally got tired of running." "That's poetic," she said, dryly. "Not intentional." She sighed. "I don't know what I'd do if I saw him. Sometimes I miss him. Then I remember who he chose to be when it mattered." "You can miss someone and still know they weren't good for you," I said. "Yeah," she said. I just wish I didn't still feel guilty. You were in love. That's not a crime. She didn't say anything. But she didn't hang up either. We stayed on the line for a long time, not speaking. Just breathing into each other's quiet. A few days later, I got an envelope in the mail. No return address. I almost didn't open it. Inside was a single page, handwritten. Matt's handwriting. I recognized it immediately. This isn't a request for forgiveness. It's just a thank you. For seeing me. Even when I didn't deserve it. No signature. No explanation. Just that. I burned it. Not out of anger. But because I didn't want to carry it anymore. I didn't need his words tucked away in a drawer like some relic of grief. Closure doesn't always come with a bow. Sometimes it's just knowing you could have stayed angry and chose peace instead. Claire and I went hiking last weekend. It's something we used to do together when we were kids. She brought trail mix. I brought water. At the summit, we sat and watched the clouds roll in. You ever think about what would have happened if I hadn't told you who he was? She asked. I nodded. All the time. Do you think we'd still be close? Maybe, I said. But not like this. She smiled, sad and warm. Yeah. Not like this. Because the truth is, we were closer now. Not in the way we had been when we were girls, full of trust and wide eyes. But as women who had been through the fire together, and chosen each other anyway. Sometimes love is loud. Sometimes it's just showing up, again and again. And sometimes, it's walking away, so you can return on your own terms. It's been almost a year now. Sometimes I forget what started all this. Not because it wasn't painful, but because time has blurred the sharpness. The memory of Matt ghosting me, the fallout with Claire, the wedding I didn't attend, it's all still there, but it no longer pulses like an open wound. Claire and I talk regularly. Not just texts or memes anymore, but real conversations. She even came with me to visit our grandmother in hospice last month. We held hands in the waiting room like nothing had ever fractured between us. Like somehow, all the cracks just turned into places the light could finally get in. But healing doesn't mean forgetting. It started again, subtly. An email. No subject line. No signature. Just a single sentence. You really think it's over? At first, I thought it was spam. But it was sent to an old email I hadn't used in years. One Matt had access to once upon a time. I didn't reply. 2 days later, I got a message request on Instagram. A burner account. No posts. No followers. Did she tell you the whole truth? Or just the version that makes her feel better? My heart dropped. I showed Claire. Her face went pale. What is he doing? She whispered. I don't know. But something in her expression told me she might have a guess. That night, she came over. We sat on my couch, TV flickering in the background. She was quiet for a long time before she spoke. There's something I didn't tell you. About before the engagement. I muted the TV. Okay. Matt and I broke up. Briefly. Before he proposed. I told everyone it was work stress, but the truth is. I found messages. I didn't move. He was texting someone else, she said. Flirty stuff. Screenshots that didn't make sense. But he swore it was nothing. Said it was a mistake, that he deleted everything, that he loved me. And I forgave him. I exhaled slowly. Why didn't you tell me this before? Because I was ashamed, she said. Because I'd already said yes when he proposed. And if I told you, it would have been real. And now? She looked me dead in the eyes. Now I think he's trying to punish both of us. Still. Because we walked away. I didn't sleep well that night. Not because I felt unsafe. but because I felt watched. Again. The next day, I called the police. Filed a report. They told me, predictably, that unless a direct threat was made, there wasn't much they could do. I screenshotted everything. Saved it to a private folder. Just in case. A week passed. No new messages. Then one morning, I found something in my mailbox. An unmarked envelope. Inside, a printed photo. One I didn't recognize. It was Claire. From years ago. Before she met Matt. She was standing outside a bar, smiling at someone just out of frame. At the bottom of the photo, in bold red marker. She's not who you think she is. I stared at it for a long time. Not because I believed it. But because I couldn't understand who would go to the trouble to send it. Claire came over that night. When I showed her the photo, she didn't flinch. That was taken the night I met him, she said. My blood chilled. What? That bar. That night. I was on a date. With someone else. But Matt was there too. He hit on me. I told him I was seeing someone, but he gave me his number anyway. I didn't call him. Not right away. Not until weeks later, after that guy ghosted me. So, this photo, he took it? Maybe, she said. Or someone did. Someone who wants us to think the worst. And just like that, it was back. The paranoia. The feeling of being part of a story we didn't write. Of someone out there trying to shape our narrative without our consent. We made a decision that night. We blocked every possible contact. Shut down old accounts. Got new numbers. Changed passwords. Both of us. Because we weren't going to play anymore. 2 weeks of silence followed. Blissful, eerie silence. Then I got a postcard. It was blank. No message. Just an image of the cafe where we'd seen Matt that first time. The same window table. Claire stared at it when I showed her. We need to move on, she said. Not just emotionally. Physically. I think I'm going to leave the city. What? Start fresh. New job. New place. I'd been thinking about it for a while. But this? This sealed it. I didn't try to stop her. Instead, I started thinking about leaving too. Not because I was afraid. But because I finally realized something. We spent so long surviving the damage he caused, we forgot we were allowed to thrive beyond it. Claire left a month later. She moved to another state, started working remotely. Sends me photos of hiking trails and quirky thrift shops. I'm still here. But not for long. I'm making plans. Slow ones. Intentional ones. Because the best revenge isn't confrontation. It's peace. And maybe, just maybe, the quiet life we're both building is the loudest thing he'll never be able to silence. You'd think that would be the end of it. But real life isn't a movie. Stories don't tie themselves up with a neat little bow. Sometimes, things loop back in ways you don't expect. Not in big, dramatic crashes, but quiet echoes. Whispers of what used to be. It started with a wedding invitation. Not Claire's. She and Jules are happily cohabiting, not rushing anything. No pressure. No planning boards. Just love, lived in and steady. No, this was from our cousin Hannah. Spring wedding, garden venue, pastel everything. One of those events where you can practically smell the Pinterest boards behind it. The invite came in a creamy envelope with embossed lettering. I opened it on my lunch break, absent-mindedly scrolling the guest list insert. That's when I saw it. Matthew P. +1. I stared at it so long my coffee went cold. He was invited. To be fair, it made some sense. Hannah and Matt had always gotten along too well, if I'm honest. She's the kind of person who prides herself on staying neutral, which often means siding with whoever brings wine. Still, it felt like a punch. I called Claire. "You going to Hannah's thing?" "Probably," she said. "Jules wants to." "Why?" "Matt's invited." She didn't respond for a beat. Then, "Are you okay?" "Yeah. Just, wasn't expecting it." We agreed we wouldn't let it ruin anything. That we could both show up, dressed nice, heads high, hearts armored. But still, I felt that old tension creep in. Like a movie villain appearing in the final act after you thought they'd drowned in the river. The day of the wedding was sunny, annoyingly perfect. Claire and Jules looked like a J.Crew ad. I wore a navy dress I felt confident in. My hair actually cooperated. I even managed a half-genuine laugh during the ceremony. I didn't see him until the reception. He was at the bar. Alone. No +1. Our eyes met. And just like that, I felt nothing. Not rage. Not grief. Not even curiosity. Just nothing. I turned back to my table, poured another glass of champagne, and didn't look again. Halfway through the night, Hannah cornered me. "You've been so strong," she said, way too seriously for someone in a sequin jumpsuit. "I just admire how you've handled everything." I raised an eyebrow. "Everything?" She leaned in. "He told me some things, years ago. I didn't believe him, not really, but I also didn't want to get involved. I should have stood up for you more." I looked her dead in the eyes. "Then why did you invite him?" She flushed. "I thought maybe it would show how far we've all come. Closure, you know? Closure isn't something you assign to people like seating arrangements." She flinched. I regretted the harshness immediately, but not enough to take it back. Later that night, as people danced under string lights and tipsy relatives took blurry photos, I caught sight of Matt again. This time, he was watching me. He didn't come over. Didn't try to talk. Just watched. Like someone standing outside a house they used to live in, realizing the locks had been changed. Claire caught my eye from across the tent. She raised her glass. I raised mine. Let him watch. We stayed late. Danced. Took selfies. Sang badly during the final slow songs. And when I finally got home, I realized something. The story wasn't over. But the chapter was. Matt could haunt his own endings. I wasn't writing him into mine anymore. It's funny how time stretches and folds in on itself. One day, you're a tangle of grief and confusion, standing outside a wedding you refuse to attend. Then suddenly, it's 5 years later and you're driving to your sister's house with fresh bread in the passenger seat and your favorite podcast playing. Claire lives in a cedar-shingled house now, near the edge of a sleepy coastal town. The kind where everyone has dogs and nobody rushes. Jules is still there, still calm and brilliant and incredibly good at knowing when to speak and when to just squeeze your hand. They have a kid now. Her name is Mara. She's 3. Wild curls, laugh like wind chimes. Claire and I joke that Mara inherited every stubborn gene in our bloodline, distilled and weaponized. She's also the one who finally got me to dance at a family event again, a clumsy, chaotic toddler wiggling at Jules' sister's wedding. I think about that often. How it wasn't some grand revelation or reconciliation that pulled me out of the wreckage. Just a baby in socks yelling, "Dance, Auntie." Sometimes, the world heals you in the softest, most ridiculous ways. I still live in the city. A different apartment, a better job. I teach now. Writing classes at a community college. I get to help students untangle their own narratives, watch them find language for things they thought couldn't be said out loud. It's slow magic. I haven't heard from Matt in years. Sometimes I wonder where he is. Not out of longing. More like curiosity you feel when passing an old building. What's inside now? Who lives there? What's changed? Claire doesn't ask about him anymore. Occasionally his name comes up in a cautionary anecdote or a weird dream, but mostly he's a ghost with no shape left. We've turned him into a footnote. A caution. A reminder that you can burn a house down and still rebuild stronger, smarter, and with better locks. A few weeks ago, I found the old journal I kept during the worst of it. So many pages were raw, desperate. Like I'd been writing just to bleed. But at the end, there was one page I didn't remember. It just said, "You will be grateful one day." Not because it didn't hurt, but because you learned where not to build your home. I smiled reading it. Closed the book. Tied it shut with twine and packed it away in the back of my closet. Not out of shame, but because I didn't need it anymore. I write different stories now. Ones with new characters. Ones that don't orbit around a single man's gravity. Ones that include complicated women and sisters who fight and love and fight again, and who choose each other every single time. Mara calls me her other mama. It started as a joke, but now it's stuck. The way she says it makes something in me heal in real time. Sometimes, when we're all piled on the couch, Claire, Jules, Mara, me, I feel it. That deep, steady certainty. We made it. And it wasn't the love story anyone expected. But it's the one that lasted.